So this is an Otis elevator. It was said to be the first elevator this side of the Mississippi.
Okay.
And said to be the fastest in Nevada at that time. It went at like 300 feet per minute, so that's pretty quick when you think about it.
Right.
There was obviously an elevator operator that was standing in here, and he would do the crank it to take you up and down up wherever you were headed to. And when Red Roberts purchased the building, all of this had so many pigeons and so many critters in here that you couldn't see any of the decoration on or
No
anything.
kidding.
It was just covered in crap.
Wow.
So it got cleaned out, but originally it was black with like a brassy cotton gold. So if you notice around the walls here and stuff like that, this part of the building has had the least amount of work done to it. So
Really?
basically they started at the basement and went up. So the basement has a lot of work that was done to it. So on up, and you'll notice as we go down the next floors and stuff like that. But so the building was finished in 1908. Before that, there was 2 other Goldfield hotels that were just right down the street here, right down the block. And they had both burned to the ground. So when they built this, they had the idea of making it more permanent, making it more substantial in many ways.
Right.
And they made it what they considered at the time basically fireproof. So they used brick and mortar. Had the idea of making it more permanent and things like that for the building structure itself. And if you notice outside the black grates out there,
Yeah.
the fire escapes,
Right.
which was back then they didn't have a fire inspector that came around and made sure it was all safe. You know,
Right,
that didn't
yeah.
matter. If you got killed in a fire, you got killed in a fire.
Yeah.
It's too bad. You didn't have insurance.
bad.
You didn't have a lawyer. You didn't have, you
Right.
know. So they that was pretty fancy for that time. But this building was made to be kind of the high end, you know, the Ritz,
Right.
the higher end society.
Right.
It was designed in a U shape. This is 180 feet, and then each side of the U there is 100 feet. And
Oh, so it goes in a U?
yeah, it's
Oh,
a
wow.
U-shape, it's a U-shaped building. I'll show you here in a minute. But so it gets very disorienting in here sometimes, and I don't know if it's the energy of the building or what it is, but it feels like we walk in a circle, but we don't. No, this building has a lot of weird energies.
Yeah.
It's designed with 152 rooms to be rented out.
Oh, okay.
But each owner pretty much has designed and redesigned and reset up the room situation
Right.
all over. So it just kind of depends. But they have a basic layout of what the rooms were. I don't know exactly how many rooms are today because of the fact that everybody's
Right.
always rearranged.
Right.
But so, like I said, they were designed to be high end. So they had their own restrooms and their own rooms.
Oh, okay.
Which was at that time was not common. You
Right,
usually
right.
had a community one, like they'd have one bathroom here for this end of the hallway and one for this or something, you know.
Right.
But they
You probably had to be like a baller, you know, to get a room that had it.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And so it was pretty fancy to have your own bathroom.
Right.
Hot and cold running water, which was not too terrible common.
Right.
They had their own heat in each room, so that was unusual. They had their own telephones in every room.
Wow.
And that was really high tech. So they had a switchboard downstairs, and then they also had some payphones downstairs. But when you think about the fact that there was mining executives, there was mining owners and mining bosses that were
Right.
coming here, and they needed to not only have a telephone access to call back east and everything,
Right,
but
right.
also, you know, they had the high end. They were the high end.
Right.
So it was pretty fancy that way. We'll walk down here to this end of the hallway. The building remained open until the end of World War II. Basically, by the 20s and 30s, the gold was running out in the town. Things were dwindling down. People were leaving, and it became kind of a flop house for miners and cowboys and people like that were coming through.
Right.
So at this hallway, at the end down here, you see the boards down there.
Yeah.
There's a drop chute for the work that they've been doing. So it basically is just a boarded up drop chute.
Oh, okay.
So it goes all the way down, obviously. But so in the 1980s, there was a man that was purchasing this building, and he had a couple crews in here working. So when we walk around, you'll come across these like plastic inserts of like a tub or a shower or whatever. But so they've never been used, but they're from the 80s, so they're not going to be usable.
Right.
Still, but The band in the 1980s, he had a crew that came in and they were working here, and they finally left the building and they said, we're not going back. We're never going back to that building. No, it's not happening.
Right.
So then he got a second crew to come up, and the second crew, everything seemed to be going along pretty well until one day when somebody forgot something, and the guy said, oh, hey, I forgot, I gotta go back in, grab my whatever.
Yeah.
And when he came back in, he swears that in the lobby was a full bar, men, women, smoke, music playing, everything, drinks going on,
Wow,
and he
that's
said
crazy.
he looked over at them, obviously, and they looked back at him, and
Right.
he ran out of the building and said he would never, ever step foot in this place again. And the other guys on the crew said, we are with you.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So up here is this little area, and I've got another one of those tub inserts, but it's a great view up here. You can see almost clear to Tonopah. You can see all over the place. It's a really great view.
It
here.
is. It's a really nice view.
Yeah, so you can see across all the mountains pretty much. It's a good view up here. It's pretty cool, and it gives you a good idea of how these windows are falling back and fall back in. Oh, crap. All right, well, I'm gonna have to just use my. Anyway, so this hallway is fairly famous for what was considered the Cowboys shootout.
Okay.
There was two Cowboys that had a disagreement. They had a shootout here in the hallway. I think that both of them were killed. It's said that there's a cowboy that looks around this corner here where you're standing to see if somebody's going to shoot at him. So there's also a man who fell in love with a lady of the evening, and to quote the great Dr. Dre, you can't make a hoe a housewife.
Right.
But you can't make a hoe a housewife.
You know, so in that sense, he was distraught and he jumped out of the window to his death. Same thing happened with a lady of the evening. She wanted to be with this man that was married or whatever, and she jumped to her death.
Wow.
Then there was a man on the floor below us that hung himself also. He was broke. He was going to be thrown out of the hotel, and he decided to hang himself. We don't know how he became suddenly broke, but he did. So in the 1980s, the man that was working on the building here, having it work, you know, there's, it's kind of weird. We have Bill the cat, and then we have the Robo Warrior, and and it says and no Murdy down there.
Oh, really?
No Murdy means. There's a random quote from them too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Then there's another random quote here. All of them are the Robo Warrior. I don't know who or what that means, but
What's the Robo? You say you don't know what that is?
we don't know who Robo Warrior is. But
That's crazy.
This is obviously a disgruntled employee, but it's still the Robo Warrior signed random quotes on the wall.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Talk about mysterious.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was like The Shining, and they were possessed.
Right,
for a
right.
while or something. I don't know. I was telling you about the building being fireproof. That along with all of the other precautions that they were taking, they also had these spigots. There's one here, and there's one on the end of the hallway down there.
Mm-hmm.
So these are a spigot. They would have had a hose that was hanging here. And if something were to happen in your room, you could run a fire hose down there and put the fire out.
Oh.
So it was designed for that kind of safety as well, which
Interesting.
is all very modern. Like I said, they don't have a state inspector that was coming. So then you can see the drop sheet there or whatever. And like I said, if you want to go down there, we can. One of the things that fascinates me is, stupid flashlight, is when you look at the ceiling and the beams up here, all have these insulators for lines to be run through like that. So see how they had electrical lines and stuff like that running through these beams, but when you look at these beams, that's a lot of holes drilled.
Yeah, it is.
And all the way down, there's a lot of beams, a lot of holes, and a lot of insulators put in there. And they probably didn't have like a machine that was drilling those holes. It's probably all hand drilled. All of the beams, all the way down on all of the floors, on all Like, that's a lot of beams. It's like every, like, I don't know. But, yeah, no, this is a cool setup for the way that they have had it for its era, you know. I mean, I
Right.
like the setup.
Oh, yeah.
That way, but we'll go ahead and go down to the next floor below us.
All right.
So you can see that there was a door out to these balconies and stuff, and I'll show you the one below us too. And they will tell you how they're going to reopen, and they're going to be opening this mine, and that they're going to need so many employees, and that they're going to do this and that, or what have you. And so they would have a platform here to speak to whoever in the crowd. It was also a social area where the people could come up here and, like, you know, have a drink and socialize and
Right.
cards
Yeah,
and
it seems like
everything
a
there,
cool
you know.
chill spot, you know?
Yeah, and but in the 80s, the man, I think, was making the one above us and this one a suite. Wondering what the frick that is. Oh, maybe, I don't know what. It's been used, but it's been here since the 80s. It'll never be usable, really, you know. This is kind of a social area. You can see how they've cut open some of these spots and stuff. And again, we have another shower insert. So then, for many years, there was a little old lady that ran the Goldfield Hotel. She took care of the place. Her name was Virginia Ridgway.
Oh, okay.
And she was... Is somebody here? Can you light this up for me? You just have to get in front of it.
I'm trying to SLS.
Yeah, I have one place that my SLS works really well, but
Oh, really?
not up here. Well, I'll show you when we get down there, but...
Let's see if there's something in here. Was this just a regular room, or was it like Virginia Beach?
No, I don't think they were connected at the time.
Oh, okay.
That it was built or whatever, but I don't know. She always loved that room though, and it has a warmer energy to it and a nicer energy.
Right,
to it.
right.
And as well as the sun comes in those windows and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, it's just a different feeling in there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And even then, this room feels different than in there.
Yeah, it does. It really does.
I don't know if you want me to say this. I know if you don't want to do like Oh, now it's blue because, well, it's colder here. I can feel the cold air right here. I can
And
feel
just
it blowing
that.
on me.
Let's see, I'm gonna try the spirit box.
But wherever your energy was centered, there's a lot of that, you know?
Right.
This right here was part of the original bar. Then you have the bar top there and another bar top here. In here is where the saloon was located for the gentleman to come through. If you look at the top of the bar here that has the lion's heads and then it has the open mouths, would have had light bulbs in it. And when I was upstairs, I was telling you about the fireproof, so they would have had a setup like this at the other end, down here to the hallway. I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the building and work that's been done to it. But so the basement and this floor here are composed of the rock there. See, it comes all the way up to this floor here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the basement is completely this rock, and this floor is completely out of this rock. So you see here that they're, it's what the main structure of it
Right.
is. All of this rock came from Rockland, California, so they brought it in. What's that? Did you hear that?
No.
Really? I thought it was a male voice. This was a bar at one time.
Oh, okay.
This was the bar where the ladies of the evening could socialize as well.
Got you.
With the gentlemen, the prospective customers. But all of this rock was brought in from Rockland, California. When you look outside, you can see that it is this rock also, but then you'll also see some white rock outside that came from a local quarry. And then, of course, we have the brick and everything that was brought in. But so this is a lot. When you start looking at the walls and the size of this building and everything, this is a lot of rock to be brought in.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You know, etc. But this, you can see the grout in all of the rock. It looks fairly new, and that's because it is. They had a pneumatic chisel basically and chiseled out all of this, and then.